All right, so we are diving into some seriously passionate takes on Joker 2. And it's not just your average, movie forum chatter. This is like dangerous, woke, humiliation ritual designed to psychologically pulverize Zoomer brains. Like, come on, this is next level stuff we're dealing with here. And look, I'm all for passionate film buffs, but this feels different. It's like we're dealing with something a little more emotionally charged, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the language itself is really telling you used the term humiliation ritual earlier, and it kind of ties into this other comment about Arthur Fleck and how much suffering he's going to endure in the film.
Yeah. Raped, beaten, broken up with, humiliated, and even killed multiple times. I mean, that's a movie, but that's a lot to process even before you buy a ticket.
It does sound intense. I mean, without having seen the film, it's tough to say whether it's gratuitous or if it serves a larger narrative purpose. But, it reminds me a bit of Martin Scorsese's work. He's a producer on this film, and his films often delve into some pretty dark and challenging themes, the underbelly of humanity, guilt, redemption, and those sorts of things.
Yeah, and think about Taxi Driver or
Mm.
Raging Bull. Those aren't exactly lighthearted rom-coms.
Exactly. So there's definitely a precedent for this kind of exploration of the human psyche, even if it makes us uncomfortable.
The film is part of some larger scheme to depress everyone that feels a tad extreme, don't you think?
I mean, I get it. To some extent, there is this kind of cultural conversation happening right now about the stories we tell ourselves, about the things we consume, whether we're drawn to darkness or if it's being imposed upon us. I mean, remember the reactions to Infinity War when Thanos snapped his
Oh
fingers?
yeah, half the universe gone poof, just like that.
Exactly. People were shook. And it sparked all these conversations about mortality, about hope, even though it was a fictional event. So, in a way, I think this reaction to Joker 2 is kind of tapping into that same cultural nerve.
Yeah, it's like we're primed for this kind of reaction, whether it's warranted or not. And speaking of pre-existing ideas, let's address the elephant in the room, Lady Gaga.
Ah, yes. Lady Gaga, the casting choice that launched 1,000 think pieces.
Well, it's not every day you see a pop icon dive headfirst into the gritty world of Gotham City, and some people seem to be taking it harder than others. I mean, one of the comments just flat out said it was the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it's really interesting how much weight we put on casting decisions, right? I mean, we come to associate actors with certain roles, with certain genres, and it can be hard to separate that baggage when we see them in something new. I mean, just look at the reaction to Heath Ledger's casting as the Joker. Back in the day, people were skeptical, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. And then he delivers arguably one of the most iconic performances of all time.
Exactly. And it just goes to show you how much our preconceived notions can color our perception of a film before we even see it.
It really makes you wonder how much of our enjoyment of a film is actually based on the film itself versus all the noise surrounding it, the
Right.
marketing, the casting choices, the pre-release buzz, the lot to unpack.
It is. And you also have that age-old debate about artistic integrity versus commercial appeal. I mean, this comment about how Joker only needed the Batman connection to appeal to the masses, that's a whole other can of worms.
Right, because on the one hand, you have this standalone character study that resonated with a lot of people, but then on the other hand, it is connected to this massive comic book franchise with its own built-in audience. So where do you draw the line?
Exactly. And it's a line that filmmakers have been grappling with for decades. I mean, does attaching a film to a big franchise automatically diminish its artistic merit, or does it give it a larger platform to explore interesting themes and ideas? It's a tough question, and honestly, I don't think there's a simple answer.
So where does that leave us with Joker 2? I mean, is it even fair to judge it before we've seen it?
I think that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, we all come to these films with our own baggage, our own expectations, our own personal preferences, and sometimes those things can prevent us from really seeing a film for what it is, good or bad.
So true. And I think this whole Joker 2 situation is a perfect example of that. I mean, it's like we're so busy projecting our anxieties and our preconceived notions onto this film that we might miss what it's actually trying to say.
Will it be torn apart by critics, or will it somehow manage to subvert everyone's expectations? Only time will tell.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this deep dive. Until next time,